This isn't really particularly like grim or anything,
Mhm.
but I have a question for you because I know you love fashion and style and all that sort of stuff. If there was anyone in the world, famous, not famous, alive, dead,
Mhm.
that you could borrow from their fashion wardrobe, who would it be?
Ooh, I like this.
Like, it could be someone like your grandma, or it could be a celebrity that's
Mhm.
known for their fashion, could be male, female, like whoever.
The, like, former rock star in me immediately says Lizzie Hale
Oh,
because I
yes.
love how she
Yep,
dresses.
yep.
But then also someone who's, like, super outlandish, like, I love Queen Herbie.
Oh, big fan of Queen Herbie. Her fashion taste is immaculate.
Yeah.
Always.
And it's like, I don't even know if I could pull it off. I'd probably just look crazy,
no,
but I'd rock it.
I absolutely. And I think the pulling off and the rocking of a particular style is everything to do with you as a person
100%.
and nothing to do with the fashion.
Mhm.
Because there are people out there that could put on a black garbage bag and rock it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's all about how you wear it.
Yes. For me, I would love my big thing in fashion, and I would really love to do one day, I will when I have the money, is I want to have a suit tailored perfectly to me.
You would look good in a suit.
It's a dream I have. I will
Yep.
get there one day, but I want to spend the money and get something
Mhm.
good quality. And so for that reason, I would love to raid Marlena Dietrich's
Ooh,
because
you would rock the shit out of
I
that.
love just the perfect, like the 1930s, 40s, 50s.
Yep.
Well, you love vintage fashion
Mhm.
too. And then just like the top hat, the immaculate hair,
Yep.
and then the tux. Oh,
That's a good look.
so good.
I love that.
And like so many, just like not just the tuxes for her, just like fashion in general.
Everything.
She was immaculate
Yeah,
always.
absolutely.
Good answer. I like yours and I like mine
I like
too.
your answer too.
Thank you.
And I like mine.
Alrighty, well, let's get into it. Now that that's joyful, we're about to get real gruesome.
Mhm.
So, hello, everybody. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Dina. Welcome to the Grim Curriculum. Speaking of fashion,
oh, yeah.
buy our merch.
Yes, please.
We've ordered some. We're waiting for it to come in. We're going
Yeah.
to take some photos in it and all
Yeah.
that fun stuff.
We ordered a couple of years ago and we did a big haul and we got some stuff for ourselves. So, we thought it was time again. So, we're waiting for those to come in. But in the meantime, go put some grim merch on your bodies.
Yeah.
Or in your house. There's lots of other things to look around for too. You can check out the links across the board. It's always on our social media if you're curious. And if you really, really can't find us, you can always send us a DM. We'll point you in the right direction.
I have a little Grim tote bag.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I go grocery shopping, I like use it. And there's this kid that works at the grocery store by my house. He's like maybe 16. He's got piercings. He's got the super long hair. He always talks to me about my tattoos. He's just the sweetest kid. And he's like, "What is that? Is that like a band or something?" And I was like, "Actually,
let me tell you.
And I like gave him a business card. He's like, "Oh, I love podcasts." I'm like,
Hell
yeah. You do.
Well, if you, sir, are listening and you've recognized yourself, what up? Welcome.
This is also the same kid who we'll get to this story eventually, to Dennis. But I would go into the store like after a day. So like hair's done, in a dress, makeup's done, whatever. And then on some days I'd go in baseball cap, leggings, no makeup, nothing.
Yeah.
And he told me one day, he's like, "You're not the only one that shops here with a Zelda sleeve."
He thought you were two different people.
And I'm like, "Oh?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's this other lady who comes in. She also has a Zelda sleeve." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, I don't know about that. There might be, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, she's about your height, your age." And I'm like, I think that might be me. And then he's like, no. And then I was like, oh, that's humbling, but okay, thank you.
Hey, I mean, if nothing else, it's a compliment to how much of a chameleon you can be, apparently.
Sure, yeah.
It's the Clark Kent effect in real time.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah.
Dennis,
now that we've procrastinated long enough.
I will say about this case.
Yeah.
I tend to always enjoy the research aspect of things. Even when we're researching something that's terrible, it just depresses me and I hate it. I love research.
It's knowledge and it's fascinating and it's really interesting to get into, even if it's traumatic
Yes,
somehow. It's that
exactly.
weird morbid curiosity thing.
I have not enjoyed researching for a case as much as I've enjoyed this one in a very, very long time.
Really?
I have watched every single documentary I could find.
Dang.
The only thing that I've read the 2 books that were written with his help. The
Yes.
only book that I can't find is, History of a Drowned Boy or
Oh.
Drowning Boy,
Yes, the one that
the one that
he
he wrote,
yes.
because apparently it is very hard to find, so I'm still on the lookout for it, but I have been just obsessing over this case,
Whoa.
and there's so many little things about it that I find fascinating
Mhm.
that we're gonna get into. I I mean, with the exception of Jeffrey Dahmer,
Okay.
there has not been anyone like Dennis. And even with him and Jeffrey Dahmer, there are a lot of differences,
Mhm.
but a lot of the time we talk about the process killer like you're I mean, just about anybody who we talk about
Yeah.
where it's the killing that does it for them.
Mhm.
With Dennis, he is a product killer. So for him,
It's the
he
fantasy,
hated killing.
which is
He
wild.
absolutely if he could have killed one person and kept their body forever without it decomposing, he would not have killed again,
Mm.
and I firmly believe that.
Whereas, do you think, I mean, we haven't covered Jeffrey Dahmer
Mhm.
yet, but I mean, who doesn't know about Jeffrey
Yeah.
Dahmer? Do you think, based on what we know about Dennis and what you've just said,
Mhm.
and then with Jeffrey, because obviously one of the little tidbits about Jeffrey is he also wanted these human zombies that he could keep
Yes.
around forever. Do you think that Jeffrey, had he been able to achieve the same thing that we just talked about, do you think he would have killed again?
I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
I think with him, once it kinda escalated and he had his, like, altars and things like that, that he wanted
Mhm.
to make, that if he had figured out how to make that zombie, he would not have probably killed again. Unless he got bored of
Interesting.
that one particular
That's
zombie.
the thing,
But
yeah.
it's I never wanna give credit to serial killers because this
No.
man deserves absolutely no credit, he's a total loser. But it's just fascinating to see different types of serial killers,
Yes.
especially the ones that talk about there's one point where he talks in an interview where he has all these bodies under his floorboards that we'll get into later, and he walks into his house and he looks and he sees a dead body sat up in his armchair, and he says to the body, "Well, this is just getting ridiculous."
Oh my god. It would be like, that makes me wanna laugh, and it's not funny.
It's not, but he is very eloquent and very well
Mm.
spoken, and it's always that, difference between your Ed Geins and your Ed Kempers,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
It's just interesting to see him try to justify his delusions to himself and not realize, because even Ed Kemper was like, "Only a crazy person would do this."
Yeah.
Dennis Nilsen, in his mind, he's like, "I'm just trying to figure this out. I'm just a hopeless romantic."
So twisted.
It is twisted and it's fascinating, and I'm glad to hear people have been enjoying this story so far.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be a 3, maybe 4-parter, we'll
Mhm.
see. This is gonna be a little bit of a longer episode, but, I have really enjoyed covering him, and I'm glad that we finally got to him.
Well, he's fascinating. It really is. Last week, we started with the early life of Dennis, his time in the army, and his brief stint as a police officer.
We also focused a lot on his increasingly strange sexual
We
fantasies.
talked about that a
A lot.
lot.
And we last left off with Dennis discovering the London gay scene and meeting his new boyfriend, David Gallichan.
Who, by the way, he lovingly referred to as Twinkle. Nope, don't like that because my granddad used to call me and my little sister like Twinkle once in a while.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that's just corrupted
Yeah,
that for
no,
me.
no.
Thanks, Dennis.
The morning after they met, the two decided they would move in together. A few days later, they found a ground floor apartment located at 195 Melrose Avenue. The two negotiated with the landlord for exclusive rights to use the garden located at the back end of the property, and he agreed.
When the two of them initially agreed to rent this particular unit, they were under the impression that they would be moving into a fully furnished apartment. As they arrived, they were pretty shocked to see that it was almost completely empty.
Over the course of a few months, the two bought various pieces of furniture to make it feel more like a home. As they got to know each other better, they learned that they were pretty different. Dennis was the clear breadwinner in the relationship, and David didn't really have much of a desire to get a job.
Dennis would later say that he felt an undeniable attraction to David, but found it difficult to engage in intercourse with him. The relationship became strained within a year of them moving in together. Not only did they sleep in separate beds, but the two would often bring home their own sexual partners.
Another point of contention between the two was that they had very different tastes in music. Dennis was heavily into progressive rock, and music truly took over his life. He would sit in the room with headphones on for hours, savoring every beat. He also liked classical music, but we can't play the music that he liked on the show. But I'll let you know that to me, it sounds like what I would describe as frantic video game music. Like he was a really big instrumental guy.
Okay.
I like picture like the Sonic soundtrack.
Interesting. Interesting to me that he's such like sort of this depressive character,
Mhm.
but clearly enjoys like very upbeat music.
You know that song that's like, "They're coming to take me away, haha."
Yes.
That was one of his favorites.
Ooh, that's
I
weird.
know.
That's really
I
weird.
know.
If you've never heard that particular one, it did make its rounds on TikTok not
Yeah.
too long ago. But yeah, they're coming to take me away. Haha, they're coming to take me away. Ugh, don't like it.
Yeah.
It's a lot like Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
Yes.
It's upbeat, but it makes your skin crawl.
You, like, listen to the melody and you're like, "Da, da, da, da," and then you hear the words and you're like, "Oh."
Don't like that. David hated this particular kind of music, which, you know what? I don't blame him
No.
for. He was only 18 years old at the time, remember? And he enjoyed listening to more popular music than the strange and obscure things Dennis seemed to listen to.
By 1976, the two were arguing on a regular basis. David would later say that Dennis was never physically abusive to him, but he did admit that the fights would get very heated. The following year, the two got into another argument, and Dennis demanded that David move out. He did, and David quickly got into a relationship with an older man who owned an antique shop.
He also left Dennis with two pets that they had gotten together, a dog named Bleep and a cat named Dee Dee.
And Dennis would also get a pair of budgies who he named Hamish and Tweetles. And when I was watching one of the documentaries, because he filmed himself all the time.
Yes. Remember from what we talked about
Yeah.
last week, he had like a video recorder and he was like almost making little documentaries and films anytime he could.
He would have been like an influencer today.
100%.
And so in one of these home movies, he's talking about, he's like, I paid $350 for this TV, I paid $250 for this sound system, and these budgies, priceless.
That's so funny.
And the entire time I'm watching all of those scenes, the birds are chirping in the background.
Yeah.
My birds went crazy. They did not like them.
Oh, I wonder too, because remember, Dennis is Scottish and he's living in England.
Mhm.
And this is totally off topic, but I wonder if they say this about goats, I know for sure,
Mhm.
but I wonder if British budgies and like Canadian budgies have different accents.
A lot of parrots who talk.
Yeah.
Like there's one that I follow who is owned by an Australian lady,
Mhm.
and her bird has an Australian accent.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If that's what you're hearing, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry, off topic, guys.
I will also say that Bleep
Yeah.
was in a lot of the movies, and he was so cute. He's this tiny little, like, they call him a mutt. He was like a border collie, German Shepherd-y kind of puppy. And in a
Okay.
lot of the videos, he's like 8 weeks old.
Oh, it seems like such a huge contrast knowing David and then seeing
Dennis.
this. It's because David Tennant plays him in the thing. In my head, they look very similar, and
Oh,
I
they look
keep saying
identical.
it. Dennis is such a creep,
Mhm.
and then to have this cute, innocent thing, it's like this weird disconnect in
It
between.
is.
How could someone that does such gruesome things have a love for animals?
And he didn't take care of him that well, so I won't give him too much credit. Like, the budgies were
Mm.
not in a nice cage. It was dirty, and it made me sad. But we will talk eventually about what became of Bleep,
Okay.
and I'm very upset.
Oh God. Okay, well, we'll brace for Bleep. Over the course of the next 18 months, Dennis would have a few short relationships with other men, but they didn't go very far as the men didn't express much of an interest in being in a serious relationship with him.
By 1978, Dennis was living alone. In his mind, he was beginning to come to terms with the idea that he may be unfit to live with. and was accepting his isolated life. He would spend his days focusing on his work and his nights drinking heavily and listening to music.
Living alone only led to his fantasies growing further. He realized that the relationships he was having just weren't cutting it for him. There was something missing.
That's right. He realized that there was one common denominator with all of the people he had been with, and it explained why they weren't able to fully arouse him. They were all alive.
This leads us all to December 30th, 1978. According to Dennis, he had been drinking heavily at the apartment when he decided he needed to, at all costs, head out and find himself some company. He made his way to the Cricklewood Arms pub where he met 14-year-old Stephen Holmes.
Stephen had attempted to purchase alcohol for himself at the pub but was unsuccessful. Dennis invited him over to his apartment so the two could get drunk and listen to music together. And the thing about the music that drives me crazy,
Mm.
I love music, you love
Oh,
music.
yeah. And I have a pretty eclectic
Yes.
taste. Like, I like everything.
Dennis was the kind of guy who was like, we need to adjust all the settings perfectly. And you need to listen to this music with headphones on so you can greatly appreciate it. And we'll listen to the same song 15 times so you can hear every single beat of it because this song is great and my taste in music is better than anybody else's. He was very like hoity-toity.
Pretentious, yeah.
He's a very pretentious person.
I hate that because, first of all, your taste in things is purely subjective,
Yes.
right? What you think is great, I may not think is
Mhm.
great. And I also accept, too, that some of the things I enjoy are objectively trash.
Yeah.
But I still like them. So when, like, if I'm in the car with a friend and some of my weird shit comes on, immediately I'm like, oh, we don't need to listen to that. And most of my friends are like, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's really not. Let's listen to something else or
Mhm.
whatever. But like the fact that he was like, can you imagine literally having spoken about the songs that he liked? You
Mhm.
meet this guy at a bar. Also, you're 14 years old, which just, ugh. You come home with him and you're like, oh, cool, we're going to listen to some music together because that's what you did in that time.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then he's like, okay, headphones on, adjust the hi-fi,
Mhm.
get all the settings right. And then they're coming to take me away again. You know, and it's like, I'd be like, no, thank you. Have a good night, Dennis.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, thank you.
Stephen was not gay, and the two did not engage in any kind of intercourse. As far as we know, the two drank profusely while Dennis showed off his music collection, and then the two passed out.
The following morning, Dennis woke up and saw that Stephen was in his bed sleeping next to him. He would later say that he was hesitant to wake him up because he didn't want him to leave. It was now New Year's Eve, and Dennis wanted to spend the occasion with his new friend.
With that, Dennis decided that his only option was to make him stay. He grabbed a necktie, wrapped it around Stephen's throat, and climbed on top of him. This did not kill him, but rather rendered him unconscious.
Dennis then drowned him in a small bucket of water. As he was doing this, he went back to his fantasy of the hermit in the forest. This time, Dennis was playing the role of the hermit.
Remember that very specific World War II fantasy from last week? You're going to see a lot of similarities between that and this first murder.
So, yeah, clearly Dennis had not forgotten about that particular
No.
fantasy. Dennis then took the body of Stephen Holmes to the bathtub where he delicately washed him. He then dried him off and placed him on his bed. Dennis climbed into the bed, caressed the body, masturbated twice, and fell asleep.
There's going to be a lot more of this.
Deeply do not enjoy any of that. If you are listening and you agree, I am right there with you. I think you are too. You know the minutia of what's coming. I'm familiar with the case, but then you read it again and you're like, oh, yuck.
It's very gross.
Gross.
Especially when you hear him talk and you hear how pretentious he is. And it's like, my guy,
you have no
you're
right.
nasty.
You have no right.
No.
Yeah. Blech.
When Dennis woke up, rigor mortis had set in. He then hid Stephen's body underneath the floorboards where it would stay for 8 months. He would later admit that he brought it back out once out of curiosity.
For those of you wondering, he used various sprays and deodorizers in an attempt to mask the smell. Visitors to 195 Melrose Avenue would often comment that the apartment had a musty smell. I'm sure it was more than musty.
Mhm. In later interviews, Dennis would say that a part of him expected the body to simply vanish, but it didn't, and he realized something had to be done before the smell got even worse. He would say that, like, he would go to work
Mm.
and leave the body out, and he'd come home and be like, "Oh, you're still here." Or he'd look under the floorboards and be like, "Oh, I forgot about you."
That, I think, goes to show the level of his delusion
Yep.
because he is not unfamiliar with dead bodies. Like,
Mhm.
he spent time in the army where he saw stuff like that, pretty gruesome and nasty things on a regular basis
Mhm.
that didn't particularly affect him. And I would say even went as far as to desensitize him more.
Yeah.
So he knows what happens. Like, it's not like he's got this childlike thing where it's like, oh, you just die and go to heaven and that's it,
Mhm.
right? Like a little kid, perhaps looking into the coffin of their grandfather,
Yes.
may think, oh, well, that's it. They're just gone. But Dennis knows that things
He knows
decompose.
the reality of death.
He's an adult, and
Mhm.
I mean, a crazy, crazy adult, but he knows how life
He's
works.
very disconnected, and we're really gonna see
Yeah.
that in this episode.
On August 11th, 1979, Dennis built a bonfire in his backyard where he burned the body. He threw a tire on top of it to hide the smell of burning flesh.
He would later say in regards to this murder that he
Started down the avenue of death and possession of a new kind of flatmate.
tragically, the identity of Stephen Holmes would not be found out until 2005.
That's such a long time.
And the really sad thing is, out of all of his victims, because he forgot,
And
only 8 have been identified.
that's crazy, considering everything.
Yeah.
And this poor kid was 14.
Mhm.
That's not a grown man. That is
No.
a child.
Yep.
Ugh. Despite all this, Dennis swore to himself that he would never commit another murder again. He blamed his actions on his drinking and planned to cut back,
Things would not work out that way for Dennis.
obviously. On October 11th, 1979, Dennis was at the St. Martin's Lane pub when he met Andrew Ho, a student from Hong Kong. The two began chatting, and Dennis invited Andrew back to his apartment for some fun.
When the two arrived, they continued drinking. Eventually, the subject of bondage came up. Andrew was receptive and allowed Dennis to tie him up. He then brought out a necktie and began to strangle him. And this was all of the murders are done with the same necktie.
That's crazy to think, because I in the moment, like we've talked about this before, strangulation's quite a difficult way to
Mhm.
kill someone. Um, Especially with your bare hands, obviously easier if you have something helping you, like a necktie.
Mhm.
But initially, it when he used the necktie, it's like, oh, I just grabbed the closest thing, right? And or there was a necktie on my table or
Yeah.
whatever. But then the fact that he goes back to the same one again and again, that to me speaks of that's a pattern, right? That's an MO.
Yes, it weirded me out because at first I was like, "Oh, he just has a bunch of neckties and he just grabbed the first
Yeah,
one he saw."
sure.
And then I saw the picture of the necktie and
And
I was like,
it's
"He used the same one."
ugh, don't like that. Andrew actually began screaming, which caused Dennis to let him go. The incident was reported to the police, who questioned Dennis regarding the incident, but they concluded that no laws had actually been broken, and after Andrew decided not to press charges, the whole thing was essentially forgotten about. Excuse me, what do you mean no laws were broken? He tried to strangle me. That's attempted murder.
This was the era where, and again, drawing the comparison to Jeffrey Dahmer,
Ah, yes.
where Andrew Ho tells the police about this, and the police are like, "Ew."
To be a little crude for a second, they were probably like, "Ooh, gay. Don't want anything to do with that."
Literally.
Oh, man.
Dennis would later confess that he had every intention to murder Andrew Ho. He backed out at the last minute because he was, in his words, too sober.
Jeepers. 2 months later, on December 3rd, Dennis met a 23-year-old Canadian student named Kenneth Ockenden. Kenneth had arrived in the UK to visit his relatives and was touring the area. Upon learning this, Dennis offered to give him his tour of the area.
He then invited Kenneth over to his apartment with the promise of a good meal and a few more drinks before they set off to visit some landmarks. Kenneth accepted. The two stopped at a liquor store where they purchased rum, whiskey, and beer.
The two of them then stayed at Dennis's apartment and listened to some records while drinking heavily. At around 1 a.m., Dennis handed Kenneth a pair of headphones and told him to listen to a specific album while wearing them. He explained, as Dina mentioned before, this was the best way to properly enjoy the music.
Kenneth put the headphones on as Dennis began to play the London Symphony Orchestra classic rock covers album.
That's so specific.
He then reached for the headphone cord and strangled Kenneth with them as he dragged him across the floor.
Small aside, and perhaps an inappropriate topic of conversation, but I would be so mad if someone murdered me to that music.
Mhm.
Of all the like songs or all the albums to
Yeah.
go out of this world on, you picked the London Symphony off like classic rock covers by classical music.
Yeah.
I would be infuriated in the afterlife. I
Mhm.
would be like, no,
Mhm.
do not like. When Kenneth was finally dead, Dennis poured himself a glass of rum, took the headphones off of Kenneth, and sat next to his body while he enjoyed the album himself. He then undressed the body, washed him, and placed him under the floorboards.
The following day, he placed the body in a cupboard and went to work. Before going home, Dennis purchased a Polaroid camera. He posed the body in various suggestive poses and took photos. After that, he laid the corpse on his bed and watched TV with it for several hours.
He then wrapped Kenneth in plastic bags and put him back under the floorboards. Over the next 2 weeks, he would bring the body back up and place it on his armchair so he could watch TV with it. He would talk to the body about his day and complimented Kenneth on how good he looked. I think of Dennis as like quite a small individual,
Yeah.
like not a big, strong man, but at the rate he is like huffing bodies all around his
Mhm.
apartment, he must have been developing some muscles.
He was pretty skinny.
Cause like, I mean, you think like, oh, it's just a body. Like, what is it going to be? 150 pounds, like whatever.
Yeah.
But a floppy, dead, uncooperative body, and you're stuffing it under floorboards, stuffing it into chairs, stuffing them into closets. Why? Why the effort? I guess it's the fantasy.
It is.
Ugh.
When he was done with the body, he left him under the floorboards and burnt the records that they had listened to together. A few days later, Dennis was at an office Christmas party. He had taken hours to prepare a mixtape to bring to the event.
Oh no.
He had made the tape prior to the murder, and in the middle of the party, a song came on that him and Kenneth had listened to together.
Dennis, upon hearing the song, dropped his drink and quickly left. When he arrived back home, he tried to go to sleep but couldn't stop hearing the song in his head. He began yelling at his floorboards, saying,
If you want to listen to the music, then come out and listen to it.
oh, he cracked.
Telltale Heart.
He good and cracked at
Mhm.
this point. He once again brought out the body from under the floorboards and sat it in the dining room chair and played the song. He then took off his clothes, drank a rum and coke, and loudly cried. This man is a mess.
Yeah.
Out to lunch.
And you know what I wonder?
Hmm.
He has neighbors.
Yeah. It's like 1 in the morning and he's blasting fucking whatever God knows.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess
You-
it's in his headphones, but like, and then
Well, then you just hear the crying.
the crying, and then the shuffling, and then the floorboards being pried up again. Like, oh, he's doing renovations all the
Bleeps
time.
barking, birds are chirping.
Oh my god, I forgot about the animals.
Yeah.
I guess it goes to show as well just like how different even back then it was safety wise for men versus women,
Yeah.
because I mean, even in those days, I wouldn't just go back to some man's apartment. Whereas, like, guys, I feel like they don't think about the danger involved. But the second you step into that apartment, there's birds chirping, he's got dog, cat, and then there's this musty smell.
The thing that you have to remember with his victims is he's going to learn very quickly what kind of people to prey on.
Yeah.
And a lot of these men, he finds them when they're hungry or they're cold or they have
Vulnerable.
nowhere else to
Yep.
go. And it's like, you have to remember how he presents himself.
Totally. I mean, he's a pretty unassuming guy.
And he was charming. A lot of his survivors or people who had met him at the bars, because he was very well known at these bars,
Yes.
they would say, "This guy came up to me. We had this awesome conversation. He was
Whoa.
so easy to talk to. He sat down next to me and he was like, 'Who are you? What do you do? Tell me about yourself.'" And he would let them talk and earn that trust.
Oh.
So by the time he's like, "You know what? I'm having such a great time with you. Do you want to come to my house for some drinks? And I'm a really good cook. I'll make you a meal. We'll
Yeah.
have a good time." At that point, the people are so comfortable with him
Totally.
that they don't care.
Well, and already, so we have a student from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So obviously not familiar with the area, right? You're
Mhm.
perhaps a little more trusting. You're open to making friends because you know you're here and you want to make
Yeah.
friends. So you have that. You also have a Canadian guy who is visiting the country. David's often to or not David again. Dennis has offered to tour you around. You're making friends. You
And
don't think anything of it.
with Kenneth, he was staying in a hostel.
Okay.
He's meeting a lot of people. He's making, travel
Yeah,
companions.
yeah.
So he's used to this. He's like, "I've met so many cool people here in London. This is just another person that I've met that's really cool. I'm safe. It's fine."
Absolutely. And also to bring up the hostel, the idea of maybe like sleeping in an apartment after sleeping in a room with many people for a
Yeah.
little while, that would be nice too. You're like, hey, awesome. We get to hang out.
Mhm.
Can maybe get a shower out of this or
Yeah.
something too. Sleep in a proper bed.
He's got a puppy. How bad could this be?
Yeah. You can see how, yeah, he manipulated these people and got them into very precarious positions without them even realizing it
And again, a lot of the survivors would say everything was fine.
until it wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Between murders, Dennis also had several attempts at taking a life that didn't pan out. On one occasion, a friend of his woke up after spending a night at Dennis's house. The room was full of smoke, and then he saw Dennis holding a knife. The man would later say that he believed Dennis was trying to asphyxiate him.
He had a space heater,
Oh.
and Dennis was like, "You knock the space heater over in your sleep, and the room is full of smoke." And the guy's
Oh.
like, "It's the middle of summer. I don't think we had this space heater on.
Mm.
The room is full of smoke. What the hell?" And then
Yeah.
he's like, "I'm leaving." And then afterwards, he was like, "I think he was trying to kill me."
I can't imagine what it must be like for those folks who had a close call with him to find out after. And I think about this a lot with many serial killers who have the ones that get away.
Mhm.
Where is your mind after this being like, especially the ones that maybe had a near miss but didn't quite realize and then find out
Yeah.
even decades after
Mhm.
the fact and they're like, wait a second, holy cow, I spent a night at that fella's apartment. Whoa.
That guy and the guy that we're gonna talk about right away are both in the Netflix documentary,
Mhm.
and this next guy that I'm gonna talk about is a broken shell of a man to this day.
Oh,
He's
man.
talking about it, and he is literally shaking and crying while he talks about it.
I believe it.
So, that man would say that he awoke to Dennis on top of him. Dennis then took out a necktie and strangled him, and the next thing he knew, he was waking up to Dennis giving him mouth to mouth to revive him. He then let him go.
Wild.
There was another person who Dennis had strangled him, and Bleep comes up as the guy's unconscious
Yeah.
and starts licking his face,
Oh.
and it wakes him up.
Bleep saved your life. Or did he?
I don't think he did.
Ah, shit. Come on, Dennis. You're gonna murder someone in front of your dog?
He did all the time.
Ah.
Bleep saw everything.
I also keep thinking when we talk about Bleep that he actually has another name that, like, we can't say, so we're saying Bleep instead. This dog's name was Bleep.
Bleep,
Bleep. Bleep.
bleep, Dee Dee.
Bleep and Dee Dee.
Although I love the name Hamish for a bird, I will say.
Hamish is a good name.
Yeah.
I do like a good, like, Scottish name too.
Dennis met his third victim on May 17th, 1980. Martin Duffy was 16 years old. He had hitchhiked to London without his parents knowing. A few days prior, he had been questioned by the police after being caught riding a train without a ticket. Martin then spent a few days sleeping near a railway station.
This was when he met Dennis, who had just returned from a work conference. They spoke, and Dennis offered him a place to sleep and some food. Martin, now exhausted and starving, accepted the offer, and the two went back to the apartment.
After they ate, Martin went to sleep in Dennis's bed. Soon after, Dennis climbed on top of him and strangled him with a tie. After he was certain the boy had lost consciousness, he drowned him in the kitchen sink. He does not skew
No,
from how he does this.
he's figured it out. He's figured out what pretty much works for him, and he's sticking to it.
Yeah.
Right down to using the same necktie again and again. Dennis then dragged his body to the bathroom. He filled a tub and took a bath with the corpse. He would later say that this victim was
The youngest looking I had ever seen.
don't like any of this. After this, he placed the body of Martin Duffy onto a kitchen chair and then back onto his bed. He spent hours kissing and caressing him while repeatedly masturbating onto him. He kept this up for a couple of days, hiding the body in the cupboard, and when the body started to bloat, he hid him under the floorboards with the body of Kenneth.
And yes, neighbors did begin to complain about the smell coming from the apartment. Dennis simply explained to them that it was caused by the building settling.
Settling into what? A fucking abattoir?
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's just the building.
If you're ever in an apartment building, or any building for that matter,
Mhm.
and you start to smell, the smelly smell of
Mhm.
decay and decomposition, and you'll know it when you smell
Oh, you'll
it.
know it.
Even if you've never smelled it before, there will be some part of your little lizard brain that tells you exactly what it
Mhm.
is, I promise. That is the biggest red flag, and you get out of that building right now.
It's like with Dahmer, he's like, it's my fish tank.
Yeah, sure it is.
No.
Sure it is, Jeffrey. Ugh. After this murder, I feel like we're saying that a lot,
Mhm.
Dennis began to kill with an increasing frequency, which is ironic coming from the man that said he was one and done. By the end of 1980, Dennis had killed another 5 men. Tragically, only one of these men has ever been identified: 26-year-old William Sutherland.
In his confessions, Dennis was vague when it came to these murders. What we do know is that he now had a routine and that these men were all killed in a similar fashion.
One of the reasons we know so little is because Dennis realized that the less he knew about his victims, the easier it would be for him to kill them. Rather than spending a lot of time with them while they were alive, he would focus on getting them back to his apartment as fast as possible so he could kill them soon after and spend as much time as possible with their bodies. He's not interested in you while you're alive. It's your dead ass corpse that he really
Well, it's
wants.
like at first he was like, tell me about yourself, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then by the end of it, he goes to the bar when everyone's really, really wasted and he goes, you.
You. Do you need a place to stay? Wonderful.
In fact, he didn't even know most of their first names.
Obviously, it speaks to how he's escalating, who he's becoming,
Yeah.
but it's very fucking unfortunate because even Dennis can't tell you who he's killed in the end.
No.
He doesn't even know. He just knows maybe this is what they look like, approximately the age, because if he's not figuring out their names, he doesn't give a shit about how old they
No.
are.
Or where they're from.
No, he doesn't care about any of that. So he can tell you, yeah, maybe, around October I killed 3 guys, but I couldn't tell you anything about them.
And we'll see later what he does to these bodies will make it pretty much impossible to identify them.
Now, you're probably thinking that by now the public was becoming aware that these men were going missing at an alarming rate. But this was simply not the case. Kenneth Auchendecken was the only victim who was ever covered in the press. One out of how many?
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's because Kenneth was visiting from overseas. So his family back in Canada was like, hey, relatives that Kenneth is supposed to be
Mhm.
visiting, have you seen Kenneth? Do you know what I mean? And
Oh,
then it becomes
absolutely.
more of a thing. Whereas for a lot of these other guys, I mean, the 16-year-old, he had run away from home
Mhm.
basically. Like his family didn't even know where he was.
A lot of them were from foster homes.
Again, the vulnerable,
Yeah.
the people who need the help the most are targeted by these evil, evil people.
Like we mentioned before, as with many cases like this, the police were extremely homophobic. And rather than investigate the disappearances, they mostly just focused on the idea that many of the men were gay and stayed away from it all because they thought it was taboo.
After seeing this, Dennis began specifically seeking out victims who had very few friends and were more often than not without a home.
Dennis's ritual had also evolved by now. Along with giving the victim a bath, he would fully shave their bodies and cover them in talc in an effort to lessen the eventual smell.
He would also quietly leave the room after setting the body up how he liked it. He would then loudly and dramatically turn, pretending to accidentally find the body in his house. He would later say that this is how he removed himself as the murderer in his mind. Ooh, that's so spooky that he can just
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, how did you get there? It wasn't
Yeah,
me."
he would literally be turn around and be like, "Who are you?"
That is that's crazy,
It is
crazy.
crazy, crazy.
You know, even with like Ed Gein, as much as he was odd and
Mhm.
weird and like had his own little things going on, he doesn't scare me as much as this does.
I agree with you.
I think, and I'm not even a target for Dennis. Obviously, I don't fit that demographic. I
Yeah,
am the
yeah.
wrong gender for that. But the fact that it's almost like something from a movie. How
Yeah,
the scary serial killer murderer just, like, flips that switch and they're like, "Oh, who are you?" You know, and it's like,
yeah.
"Oh, then that's the individual you just strangled to death with a
He
necktie."
comes out of that haze, and then suddenly it's, "Oh, someone's in my house."
That's crazy.
By now, the bodies under the floorboard had begun to accumulate. When summer arrived, the smell was overwhelming and flies filled the apartment. Dennis would spray the house with insecticide throughout the house twice a day, but it didn't do much.
By all accounts, Dennis was out of control. He would later admit that he didn't even know at any point just how many bodies were hiding beneath his floorboards.
In fact, he would sometimes hide a body in his cupboards, forget about it, and then be shocked when he found it a few days later.
I'm sure it's because he initially like, he's pretending to be shocked.
Mhm.
It does something to your brain, that habit, and so his brain is probably now just trained to be like, "Oh, right, a body."
He was also blackout drunk every time he killed
Oh,
somebody,
that's
so that
true.
doesn't help.
He's probably not remembering half of it
Yeah.
anyway, if not more.
Now, we don't want to get too gross here, but we just want to ensure that we're painting the correct picture of what this apartment was like. So there's bodies in the cupboards,
Yep.
under the floorboards, and sitting in various spots. On top of that, there's flies, maggots, and other critters. Each time the corpse rotted too much for him, he would set out to kill another person.
Dennis was fully aware that this was not sustainable for him, which is bizarre considering all the other delusion,
Mhm.
but knowing at the same time, like, oh, we're gonna run out of space eventually.
At one point, he's talking to the cops, and they're like, "Well, how many bodies was it?" And he says, "Well, I didn't take a bloody inventory of them."
Oh, like maybe you should.
Yeah.
If you're going as far as to kill them and hide them in your house, you should probably know how many there are.
Yeah,
But again, we're sane individuals.
exactly.
So, Dennis needed to figure out how to get rid of these bodies, but didn't have a vehicle to transport them. His garden was also too small to contain all of them.
So Dennis went back to his army training and decided that his only option would be to dismember the corpses and cook them.
He would later say adamantly that not only did he never cannibalize his victims, he also made sure that Bleep the dog also didn't accidentally ingest them. How nice. His ultimate plan was to cut up the bodies into tiny pieces, cook them, put them in suitcases, and store them in the doghouse that he had made for Bleep.
He like is giving a tour of his apartment in one of his videos,
Oh, Lord.
and he shows the backyard and he's like, "When we moved here, there was rubbish everywhere. It was overgrown. It was terrible. So this is what I've done. I've put up this little fence and it's like this like it's like literally like a 2 inches tall. It's like this tiny little barrier." And he's like, "And I've put in the doghouse." It's like a dilapidated shed. And he's like, "I'm really proud of the work that I've put in here. It's looking really good."
Mhm. Mhm. Sure, Dennis. So the bodies aren't just like your only delusion.
No.
Your landscaping also sucks. Like everything that Dennis did, this entire process came with its own ritual. Before each dissection, Dennis would masturbate next to the body, later say that this was his own way of saying goodbye to his victims. Not only is that foul, vile, and heinous, that's just straight up fucking disrespectful.
Yeah,
The masturbating needs to stop.
it really
It
does.
really does, because, like, I'm sick of saying the word masturbating.
There's so much masturbating in this series. I'm sorry.
Just fucking keep your hands out of your pants, for the love of God.
After that, Dennis would pour himself a drink, put his pets outside, and undress. While fully nude, he would begin the process. Dennis would remove the internal organs and set them aside, and then he'd take off the head and boil it on the stove.
After that, he would cut the body into small pieces to store in the doghouse. The internal organs would be put into their own bags and laid next to his fence. He would later say that it was his intent for animals to eat the contents of the bag.
Something to remember is that in order for Dennis to do this, he of course had to be blackout drunk and would constantly vomit. He is cutting up this body and vomiting at the same time, over and over and over again. And so the process got a little sloppy.
I'm someone who visually, I can look at things and not be particularly bothered. I can hear it.
Mhm.
But if I have to smell it,
Mhm.
that sends me off the edge. And just my imagination running wild with what this smells like is
Oh.
enough to turn my
Oh,
stomach,
it's terrible.
even though we are simply talking about it.
Yeah.
In fact, for Dennis, on one occasion, he took some organs and put them into a bag. He then left to walk bleep and then realized partway through the walk he's still holding the bag of organs.
He then dropped the bag on the side of the road and just kept on going.
A student finds this bag and calls the police. When they inspected the bag, they assumed that the organs belonged to an animal and threw the bag in the garbage.
And this bag was more than likely covered in Dennis's fingerprints, which they would have easily found if they had actually investigated it.
I feel like anytime you come across a bone or something that you suspect belongs to a human being,
Yeah.
at the very least, you have it tested,
Mhm.
right? And so for those police officers to just look and be like, nah, it's just whatever,
It couldn't be.
couldn't possibly be. Guys, you're the fucking police.
Yeah.
Hello?
And it's funny because the student that found it was a biology student.
So the biology student was like, I have a pretty strong sense that this is something suspicious,
Yeah.
did the right thing, called the authorities, and the authorities were like, nah, garbage it.
Yeah.
Soon after this, Dennis decided that it was time for another bonfire. He went to a dump and found some furniture, which he placed into a large pile in his backyard. The following morning, he took the bodies, added them to the pile, and lit that bitch on fire.
Now, don't look at this part of the script because
Okay.
I want your actual reaction to
Okay,
this.
I have not looked ahead.
So, Dennis spent the entire day tending to this fire. And this part is true. You know the intro theme for the Exorcist movies?
Yes.
He faced his speakers out of the window and blasted it the entire day while he was doing this.
How did neighbors? Anybody? Because he's not in the country. It's not
No.
like he drove out into the country for this bonfire. It's in his City of London
Mhm.
backyard. And not only that is he doesn't own this entire house.
No,
He
it's
just
like a fourplex.
yeah, he has an apartment in the house, but he just has the deal where he gets the backyard. I'm sorry, but if one of my neighbors was doing a bonfire in the backyard, I don't know how people didn't see him shoving bodies onto it and then blasting tubular bells all day long out of my windows.
At one point, a group of children saw the bonfire and sat there watching it burn for a few
Oh
hours before
my
they
God.
got bored. At one point, they were poking it with a stick.
Diabolical.
And Dennis would later say that he wished that they would have danced around the fire for him. The Exorcist theme song is playing. That's the thing to remember here. Like, does it get more diabolical than that?
On one hand, this man is so mentally ill, insane, insane,
Mhm.
because normal people don't act like this. He's getting blackout drunk. He's murdering people.
Mhm.
He's living in this delusional world where he forgets conveniently that there's dead bodies literally looking at him from every room in his
Yeah.
apartment. And then he's just like cognizant enough to have these like very specific thoughts. I don't understand it. That man's brain is scrambled.
Yeah, in a big way.
Like someone stuck a power drill in his ear and just rev that shit up because the brain is
Yeah.
like, I wonder if they did study his brain after all of this.
I don't think so.
I wonder what they might have found. Cause like,
He didn't die all that long ago.
no, it wasn't that long ago. I'd be interested to see if they did some kind of autopsy post-mortem,
Yeah.
studied his brain, if he donated anything to science. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy,
No.
but you never know.
When that fire was reduced to ashes, he took a rake and smashed any remaining bones to pieces, and this included the skull of one of his victims.
And that, my dear friends and listeners, is where we will pick up again next week. It's like something from a movie.
You know, this is horrible.
Horrific.
No doubt.
Horrific.
But can you see why I'm so fascinated by it?
Yes, 100%. We always talk about, like, the main reason I think a lot of the times where we enjoy talking about things like this
Mhm.
is because I really like to understand human beings
Yes.
and why they do the things they do. And serial killers and crazy people like this are such an extreme that my brain
Mhm.
struggles to find out how you got from point A to point B, in the sense that, like, you were born like any other baby was born. How did we get here?
Yeah.
And obviously for Dennis, we've talked about now his early life and him getting into who he became
Yeah.
as a person. And I'm still very confused about how we got to point A to point B.
It's for me, it's the disconnect that I don't understand. Because even when he gets picked up by the cops, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about next week, there's one point where he is in the back of the police car,
Okay.
and there's the guy that's driving, and one of the other cops decides to sit in the back with him.
Brave.
Yep. And so they're sitting in the back, and he goes, "Okay, so we know there's one body. Dennis, is there a second one?"
Mm.
And he's like, "I think there's about 15 or 16." And the cop is like, What?"
I think, I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know. In those days, I'm not sure if cop cars could open from the inside or not, but let me tell you, I would have been like, fellas, slow down, I'm rolling out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be in the back seat anymore.
They're like, "What?"
Because, yeah, they think they've caught him for one. They're like, oh, this crazy little bastard just murdered someone.
Yeah.
And then Dennis goes, well, actually, it's probably more than a dozen.
Yeah.
You would just be like, huh?
And then they're like, "Well, how many?" "Well, I didn't take an inventory of them."
Rolling out.
Yeah.
I would have climbed out the window. I'd have been like, fellas, let me
I am one day away from retirement.
Yeah. Fellas, let me out. I don't
Yeah.
want to be back here. Also, again, back to the smell thing.
Mhm.
I feel like when you've lived in those squalid conditions, the smell is going to cling to you as a human being. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be on your clothes. Like, I feel that at this point, he's lived with these bodies. He's
Mhm.
laying next to them and doing god awful whatever. That's going to, surely you would stink. I just wouldn't want to be in any close proximity to this individual.
Yeah, and I mean, he's waking up hungover every day, so he reeks of
Oh,
booze.
he probably just smells like a brewery.
Yeah.
Yuck. Dennis Nilsen, yuck.
If you are fascinated by this case, which honestly, I'd be shocked if you aren't, please check out the Netflix series because it has some amazing interviews with survivors, families of the victims, but a lot of footage of Dennis himself, like I mentioned, the home movies and things like that. I couldn't take my eyes off of it.
It's interesting because we don't always get a peek into the intimate lives from the perspective of the serial killer,
Yeah.
but because of killers like Dennis who like to film things, that has to be very eerie as police investigators
Mhm.
and even watching the
It
documentaries
is.
to literally see what he's seeing from his point of view.
The thing that breaks my heart, though, is they interview his mom, Betty White,
Oh, Betty.
and she's just this sweet little Scottish lady, like, she looks exactly how you'd picture her, and
Ugh.
at one point, she's like, "Well, I don't know what I did wrong, like, it's because he left home. No one was looking out for him, and if I had just kept him at home, I would have been able to look out for him, and none of this would have happened," and she has guilt.
Ugh. I don't think it would have changed
No, he would have found
anything.
a way.
I think if anything, and I mean, this is obviously pure speculation. We can't know what the different timelines looked like, but I think if he had stayed home with his mom, he would have just been bringing the bodies back to her house instead.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what position that puts her in. Does she then become a victim of him in his attempt to hide it? Is she the one that ends up snitching and calling the police on him?
Yeah.
I don't know what that world looks like, but I don't think, based on what we know about his childhood, there's some iffiness there
Mhm.
because as we talked about last week, Dennis flip-flops his story to suit his
All the
needs
time.
all the time. He changes his story. He goes from being completely innocent to not
Mhm.
innocent. He lies. I mean, we talked about how he loved his grandfather so much, who tragically passed away in a fishing accident. And then years later, he was like, oh no, he sexually assaulted me. And then he goes back on that as
Yeah.
well. So I don't think it would have particularly changed anything. I think if he had been home, Betty just would have been more involved in some way.
Yeah.
Not to say that she was helping him, but obviously she's there. So that's going to affect the dynamic of what's
Mhm.
going on as well. So,
Can I tell you one more thing? Because I found this out and I've been just sitting with it and it's breaking my heart.
yeah, lessen the burden upon
Thank you,
yourself.
because
I
I don't
can
wanna
take
wait
it.
until next
I
week.
can take it.
So I finished up research and I was like, "What happened to Bleep?"
Oh, yeah. Bleep. Oh, okay. Yep. Yep. Upset me. Do it now. Rip the band aid off.
After Dennis was arrested, the police took Bleep and put him down.
No, bleep. That makes me really sad.
I was very upset. I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
And I mean, the police maybe didn't know this, but like Dennis did go to lengths to make sure Bleep really had nothing to do with what was going on.
Bleep was not complicit in these crimes.
No.
He wasn't helping.
No, so I mean, on one hand, like if you thought that a serial killer had been feeding his victims to his dog, maybe you would jump to euthanasia as the best solution for that. I don't know what the implications of dogs eating human beings are. Probably not good. But Bleep did nothing
He
wrong.
did nothing wrong. He tried to wake the victims up. He said that, Bleep would basically, like, just kind of lay on his bed and watch him killing somebody, and that he was just unbothered by it, and it was just what he was used to.
Justice for Bleep, I say.
I know.
Justice for that dog.
Yeah, I've been upset about that for a few days now.
Well, I'm shouldering the burden, and so are you listeners.
Thanks,
So thank you
guys.
so much.
And that's part 2 of Dennis Nilsen.
Yay! 3 or 4, hey? We got 2
I'm
possibly?
gonna say I'm really aiming for 3.
I like the idea, but hey, if we end up at
We'll
4,
see
we
what
end up at
happens.
4.
We still have a lot of victims to go through, and the unfortunate thing, though, is we know so little about these people that really we aren't gonna spend a ton of time talking about a lot of the victims because there's nothing to know.
As much as the main subject of our episodes is usually the thing that is fascinating me most, it
Mhm.
makes me quite angry, I would say in this case, that it's like we have all this footage of evil fucking Dennis,
Yeah,
but we know so little about his
don't even know
victims.
their names.
That seems the injustice in that really chaps my ass.
There's a list that I have that has all the victims,
Mm.
and it says, like, Kenneth was from Canada, he looked like this was his ethnicity, this is when he died, and then there's a few where it just says, like, Filipino.
Oh, man, because that's probably all they could figure out from testing the
And
remains?
well, that's all Dennis remembered.
Oh, I see what you're
Because when
saying.
they find these bones, they show a lot of footage in one of the documentaries of them going through everything.
Mhm,
And the one guy said, I had expected that every few hours we'd be like, oh, there's one here.
mhm.
When in reality, it was between every 1 to 3 minutes
Oh
that they
my
found
god.
fragments. And some of these fragments, because he crushed them,
Yep.
were like the size of a fingernail.
Oh, man. So, like, you could discover a fragment and potentially nothing else because he's burning some of these bodies
Yeah.
and then crushing them, so essentially ratchet cremating them.
Yeah.
I mean, you find one little shard of bone, that's all that's left of one of his victims?
Yeah.
That's so fucking tragic and sad.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I We talk a lot again about how you are it's valid and I think right in some cases to be sad for the child that they
Yeah.
were. I don't think Dennis at this point, like, first of all, he's out to fucking lunch.
Mhm.
He has no redeeming qualities
Mm-mm.
whatsoever, and I he's just killing because he wants this fantasy. I hate it all
Yeah.
of it. Not that any serial killers particularly, like, have any
Redeeming
redeeming
quality. Yeah.
qualities.
No, it's just all terrible.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave you at that for part 2.
Yeah. Check out our Patreon.
Yeah. If you wanna see our faces and our expressions as we talk about
Our disgust.
yeah.
There's lots of fun stuff on Patreon. Free tier gets early episode reveals. Paid tier gets video versions of the episode,
Mhm.
Discord, all sorts of fun stuff.
You bet.
I'm going to be posting a bunch of the Dennis Nilsen interviews up there as well for you guys to see.
Mhm.
It's a great way to support the show. We sincerely appreciate it. It really helps us out. All the money that we make from Patreon just goes towards upgrading the podcast
Mhm.
and keeping it running. And with that, a huge thank you to
The wonderful, the beautiful, the magnificent Mayhem Mudkip, Nova, Lisa, Kevinus Musicus, Brian, Paranoid Pop Rocks, Bob, Judy, Steven Centauri, Yegpla, and Atlantean Jedi.
and thank you all so much for listening. This has been
The Grim Curriculum.
You got a fact?
I do, actually. My fun fact today is a whale fact.
Mm-hmm.
Humpback whales sometimes accidentally swallow small birds, but they're unable to digest them, and so they are excreted whole with whale feces, and they are known as bird bricks.
Oh dear.
Bye!